Hey, John Hickok here. So I've gone back and forth, as some of you guys know, for a long time on what to do about the podcast. It was initially how I started this Hickok 45 and Son channel. Some of you guys know the story. I wasn't interested in being in front of the camera for a lot of years, and then eventually realized, maybe I'll start doing it. And I thought a podcast would be a good way to kind of break into that and sort of get comfortable in front of the camera and then speaking publicly and all that kind of stuff. And I think it achieved that purpose, and it was good for that. And I think that was the right move. But as time went on, I started doing other type of content, especially now where I've been doing more Hickok 45 videos, and everything I had going on this past year and everything, it just was becoming kind of a logistical nightmare. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, if I wanted to keep doing the podcast or change it in some way. And I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And as I told you before, I had this other episode that I didn't put out. That I'd been hanging on to because I had some audio issues with it that just took me a while to fix, and then even once I fixed it, it wasn't great, so I wasn't sure what to do. So I finally came to a decision. That's why you're watching this video right now, is because I made a decision finally about what to do. So this is the episode. You're about to see it. It was with the Liberty Doll. She has a great YouTube channel. She does a lot of political stuff, and you're going to hear it if you stay tuned in the video. But that's what this episode is. But really quickly, I wanted to kind of update you on what's going on. But this will be the last episode of Gun Culture Radio. It's going to be the last one. So I guess I should have looked it up, but I think the 101st episode. So it did about 100 episodes. Had a good run. Definitely served its purpose. But if you like this show, the good news is I'm going to still be doing the podcast. So I did decide to continue doing a podcast, but I'm going to be changing a few things. I'm not going to be posting them on the Hickok 45 and Son channel anymore. They're going to go over to the John Hickok channel, because one of the hang-ups was having to go back through the show and edit it and everything. And maybe one thing if it was like some of these other guys, and the podcast was like the only thing that I was doing. I've got all this other stuff going on. So I can't fully commit all of my time to it. And one of the things that was annoying is having to go through and, find where Derek accidentally said the F word or something like that, and try to find it and cut it out. And then, it just, it was this long, lengthy, annoying process, So that was one of the hang-ups. And also, I kind of want to expand what I kind of had in mind for that show in general. Because I've always been kind of a jack of all trades kind of person. Guns has always been one of my primary interests, but I've always been interested in a lot of different things. I'm so far from the typical gun guy, and if I have a podcast, I want that to kind of reflect that aspect of who I am. I want to put anything I create, I want to try to put myself into it as much as I possibly can, because to me that's the point of creating something. Who cares if it's successful? That's where the joy of creating something comes from for me, is being able to put myself into something. And that's what I want to do with this podcast. And I feel like I can do that better over on the other YouTube channel, John Hickok, because over there, for those of you who know that channel, I cuss over there sometimes, and it's not a clean channel. Whereas Hickok 45 and Son is much more closely associated with the Hickok 45 brand. Whereas I try to keep it mostly guns, to the most part, and I don't swear, keep it family friendly and all that kind of stuff. And I just feel like I can get more of what I want out of the podcast if I put it on the other channel. So, and I'm going to change the name of it. It's not going to be Gun Culture Radio anymore. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to call it, but it's just going to be something generic. I may just call it the John Hickok Show, something like that, so that I can kind of do whatever I want. It's still going to be mostly a gun show, because the people that I have on will be gun people, like Derek. I assume he'll still want to do it and everything. And other guests that you've seen before, so it'll still be primarily guns, but there'll be some other topics, of course, talked about like we did on the other one, but it'll just be maybe a little bit more open, a little bit more general, and just don't have to feel like I have to be as careful about what I say. Basically, is a general idea. So podcast is going to be over on the John Hickok channel. From here on out. Now as you're watching this video, there may not be any episodes up yet. That I didn't have a bunch that I recorded over there. I'm probably going to do one just kind of solo podcast by myself at some point to kind of kick that off over there at some point. But just keep an eye out for that. and that's basically it. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news, to you guys, but that's what I've decided to do. I got some other things too coming down the pike that I'm working on. But for now, that's something I wanted to announce, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode with the Liberty Doll. She's great. I feel so bad for not putting this episode out soon after we recorded it. Like I said, I had audio problems, and the audio is not great. I don't know what happened. So for some reason, her audio was just like way less than mine, and I don't know. It sounded fine when I was listening to it and we were talking and everything. But it came through on the recording, the levels being so different. I had to go through, and every time she talked, like turn it up, and I tried using a compressor, and so I did the best I could with it, with the skills that I have for audio editing, which isn't much. I think you can hear what we're saying and everything. But she's great, and I hope you guys enjoy that podcast. And like I said, this will be the last episode of Gun Culture Radio. Look for the future podcast episodes over on John Hickok and some other things too. It won't be just podcasts over there. Anyways, I appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode, and I'll talk to you later. All right, welcome back to another episode of Gun Culture Radio. I have a well-known YouTuber on the show, the Liberty Doll. And she's here right now. That's what we're doing. We're talking. That's what podcasts are.
Well known. That sounds fancy.
You're well known. You got some pretty watched videos out there. Yeah, I think you do some cool stuff. That's why I reached out to you. I feel like, and I've already told you this before. I feel like that your demographic is very untapped. I feel like a lot of women that are involved in firearms exclusively, or even in the freedom side of things, kind of like one of your videos I watched recently. It seems like a lot of the female personalities are like these hardcore feminists that like all men are evil, and it's it's really cool. It's like to see you doing this, because it's not something that hardly anybody else is doing. So it's really cool.
Well, I mean, and it's true. I mean, you don't really go to a lot of like political events or gun ranges or anything like that and see a lot of women there. I mean, it's definitely, I walk into a gun shop around here and I'm usually the only woman, and everyone sort of like stops and drops everything and like stares at me like, whoa.
What is this? That's funny. Yeah, and then also I know that it's good too for women to get their voice out in this community also, just so that men don't like, I don't know, men can be sometimes. I've heard stories about women getting kind of bothered and stuff at shooting ranges and different things like that. So it's just good if men see that, like, oh yeah, women are into this too. And also it's good for the the anti-gunners to see it also, because they like to think of gun owners as just being all old angry white guys.
Right.
So it's good stuff.
I can't say that I've ever run into a problem getting like harassed at a gun range or a gun show or anything like that. The only problem that I really ran into, and this is sort of a silly one, is so in Massachusetts, to get your gun license, right, you have to, there's like a battery of required classes and courses and things that you need to do. And so one of them is a firearm safety class, and you need to go and shoot and prove that you can do it. And I took mine at a public range, and there was a bachelorette party there.
Oh man.
The guy that was running the class was some like hotshot kid. It was like, oh, I just got back from my tour in Afghanistan or whatever. And he was like really trying to flirt with some of these girls.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was just trying to be impressive or what, but he taught us all to shoot with ball and cup.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I did that for like 3 or 4 years before someone finally said, you really shouldn't be doing that, right?
Wow.
And he was trying to show some of the girls, the other girls, to shoot like one-handed and stuff like that. So I don't know if he just thought he was like a desperado trying to be impressive. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
It screwed me up because now I have to relearn everything.
Man, it's so frustrating when people do that. When people take it upon themselves because they want to be impressive and they teach people stuff that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
And like, what's
I don't
crazy?
know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say that bachelorette party was like really digging it though.
Yeah.
We were all like mini skirts and high heels, and it's like, oh, you do not want to go to a gun range like that.
Yeah, you're gonna have every guy in there trying to tell you everything about guns.
Well, I mean, and not just that, is, like hot shells falling in cleavage is a real problem. It
Yeah.
can be really painful.
Yeah, I can see that. I've seen some videos on the internet about that.
It's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, imagine. Because brass is pretty hot when it first comes out. It cools off quick, but it's pretty hot.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. I haven't seen anyone shoot with the cup and saucer thing in a really long time. The last time I saw it, I remember, was I was used to do armed security. I was getting qualified, and it was just me. It was such a small class. It was just me and this other guy, and he was doing that. It was like the trainer was almost kind of embarrassed for him, And we were shooting, and close to each other in the lanes. Like he was the lane right next to mine, and he actually hit my target.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like I had all my shots pretty much in this, and we were shooting super close. I mean, the target was like, it was almost laughable how close the targets were, and all of mine were like in the center. But then I had this one way down over on the corner, like on his side, almost off the entire target, and it was like a huge piece of paper. So I was like, okay, that guy shouldn't be an armed guard, probably.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Which, speaking of that's definitely something I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, all this stuff that's going on with the school shootings and all that, and it's just been insane having to argue with people about trying to keep the schools safe. Like the other side is so worried about banning guns that they just can't even fathom the possibility of making our schools harder targets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like they think that a gun-free zone is a magical barrier that magically stops guns and ammo from entering. But I mean, I don't even know how many gun-free zones I've carried in.
Oh yeah.
I think the only time that I actually paid attention to the signs was at like the like Social Security office or like the DMV, because they have guys that'll stand there and check your bags,
Right.
and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean,
well, the thing is that to me, there's like two different versions of a gun-free zone. There's like the actual gun-free zones, and then there's like the suggested ones. Like
right.
like there are real gun-free zones for the most part, where it's like a federal building and everyone that comes in, it's like you're going through a metal detector. There's no way in there, unless you shoot your way in or something. It's like if you come in there with a gun, you're going to be met with another gun. So like those buildings, it's like, okay, that's one thing. But these places where you just put up a sign, or you just have some rent-a-cop, maybe it's not even armed or something. It's
right.
It's bad. It's really bad. And they want to talk about gun control. And the thing that I have a lot of friends that are liberals and stuff. And the thing that I talk to them about is, even if you think that banning guns or certain types of guns is the solution, if you really think it is, and let's say hypothetically that for some reason it would help, hypothetically, right? Obviously, I don't think that. Well, you have to look at it realistically and think that that's going to take a very, very long time. They've been trying to do it for decades, so it's going to take a very long time to accomplish that. And even if they do accomplish something, it's not going to be what they want. It's just going to be something kind of minimal, just to piss us off, basically. In the meantime, all these kids and other people in public events are at risk, while the people are fighting over gun control. It's like we could all kind of agree now to do something in the schools. Like I know that the other side has a big issue with teachers being armed. Okay, well, we'll work with that. We'll start with just security, just highly trained security professionals, whatever it costs. Raise taxes if we have to, and then we go from there. But it's like they don't want to talk about that. They just we got to ban the assault rifles.
Right. And I mean, the thing is they say, oh, well, it worked in Japan and it worked in Australia and it worked in England and blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, not really, because,
Right.
I mean, okay, so they're not having mass shootings, but, there's people in knife attacks and there's people renting trucks and mowing down crowds of people. Someone wants to hurt someone, they're going to do it regardless of whatever tool they can get their hands on.
Right.
And second of all, okay, so hypothetically it worked in those countries. All of those countries had a lot less guns per capita than we do. I was on a live stream the other day, and the guy looked it up in real time, and he said it was something like there's like 1.5 guns for every American.
Yeah.
So you're starting off with a higher population of firearms, first of all. And second of all, you look at places that have tried various bans and registries on things. In Massachusetts, they just passed the bump stock ban with a penalty of up to life in prison for owning one.
That's just
you know
insane.
How many people turned them in? They got 3 bump stocks and a trigger crank.
Yeah.
That's it. In New York, everybody's supposed to be re-registering and relicensing. 20% of gun owners in the state of New York ignored that. There's 81,000 people that didn't re-register, didn't go and get a new license. In Connecticut, people were supposed to register assault rifles or turn them in. Like, no one did that either. And that's just in the blue states. Can you imagine if they tried to pass this in a red state?
Oh, man.
Everyone would ignore it.
Yeah.
Or you'd have like that one guy that would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. like the one less movement. Yeah. Yeah, you have some of those people. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I thought, like, if they ever ban those things, like, I have to go find mine somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I mean, I got one somewhere. It'd be like it's crazy. It's insane. And a lot of people don't even know what bump stocks. It's weird that now they're called bump stocks. They were bump fire stocks before, but
right.
A lot of people don't even know what they are. Is the thing. These people that want to ban them, just like everything else.
I didn't even know what one was until I saw years ago. I saw like an FPSRussia video.
Yeah.
Where he had them and he was like making basically like a full auto shotgun with it or something, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, man, I need one of those.
Yeah, he was one of the first people to kind of break those onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the first time I heard about them, and then I remember we had some sent to us, and we did a bunch of videos on them and stuff like that. It was kind of like the way it kind of went in the shooting world. It was like everyone was really excited about it when it first came out and played with them, like, oh, this is cool, and then people kind of realized, like, all right, kind of have my fun with that. It's not the same as a full auto, it's not
just like a novelty item, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nothing you'd ever want to leave on a gun unless it was just only to shoot it with a bump stock, and you can't shoot it very accurately or anything, and it's kind of awkward to use, and and it's hard to even keep like a consistent rate of fire up with it. But it's crazy, and one of the things too that makes the whole bump fire stock issue really complicated is because like, at least for me, like I want to be able to to buy machine guns, at least get rid of the Hughes Amendment. That's the one that really kills it. Everyone talks about the NFA, which would be nice to get rid of the NFA too, but the Hughes Amendment is the one that really kills it, because that's the thing that makes them, $30,000 and insane prices. I mean, even because the NFA, of course, has been around since the 30s, and like, for example, my dad bought an Uzi. This will make people sick. My dad bought an Uzi, a semi-automatic Uzi, for I think he paid, I don't know, $500 or $600 for it, right? Semi-automatic, real deal IMI from Israel Uzi. Took it to a gunsmith, did the paperwork, to make it a legal machine gun, and $200 tax stamp. Took it to a gunsmith, cost him like $100 to have it converted to full auto. So all in all, he's got like $900, thousand, something like that, in his Uzi machine gun, and this was like in 1985 or something. But now they're like, $10,000 or something.
Yeah, just for just for giggles, one day, well, I did a video on like the history of assault rifles and stuff, and so I had to there, go back and talk about machine guns, some submachine guns, and just for the hell of it, I went on like Gun Broker or whatever it is, and I put in like
Yeah.
machine gun, and it was like everything from like 10 grand to like
Oh,
$100,000.
they're crazy. Yeah.
And then there's all these people on the media that are like, oh, well, anyone can go down your gun shop and without a background check get a full auto. And it's like, yeah, okay, you got 20 grand.
Right. But then the problem is when you argue that with them that it's like then you're admitting that machine guns are bad. So it's sort of like this weird lose-lose scenario. Yeah, it's frustrating because my thing is, the difference between a semi-automatic and a full auto, as far as tactically speaking, in the context of like these mass shootings, is almost no difference. I mean, if there was some big advantage for full auto, then I mean, I think these mass shooters would probably figure out a way to get it, but there's just not.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't help. You're going to be less accurate if anything. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's just been a minefield on Facebook, and I
Oh
don't.
God! Even right before I called, someone must have shared one of my videos somewhere because I went to my gym class this morning and I came back and I had like 50 notifications on Twitter, all of people telling me that I'm sponsoring child murder. And I was
Oh
like,
man.
what? I wasn't aware of it. And someone put me on a list. You can have those Twitter lists. Someone put me on a list of pro mass shooters, and I was like, what?
Oh man. Yeah, that's bad. We've been getting some of that stuff, of course. Comments rolling in of like, I'm glad all these children can die for your hobby, and stuff like that.
Right.
People just don't get it. One question I thought of the other day. So let's say that sure, in Australia it's much harder to get an AR-15, right? Well, why aren't there lesser mass shootings then? I mean, they say, well, I still have guns. Like, why doesn't someone go into a shopping mall in Australia and shoot up a bunch of people with a lever gun? You could take out a lot of people with a lever action, or some kind of shotgun, or just having multiple guns. Why doesn't that ever happen? So it kind of, I don't know, it kind of makes me think that this mass shooting problem, it's more of just an American problem. It's not because we have more guns here. It's just there's something going on in this country that lends to, I don't know, people being crazy. I don't know if it was just because someone had to think up the idea and do it first, and then they've got all these copycats, and it just hasn't. It's like music; it hasn't spread overseas yet, or something. I don't know. It's really strange, but it doesn't make sense that it'd be just the guns though.
I think it's definitely a multifaceted issue because, yeah, I mean, you think about it, we've had guns in America for a couple hundred years now. We've really only had these well, more than a couple hundred years, but you know what I mean.
Right.
But like the mass shootings really, I mean, you had one in 1986, and that was the one where, Josh Sugarman and the anti-gun group started pushing the assault weapons thing, and then you had Newsweek come out and saying, oh, all these Americans had machine guns in their garages, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then there was really nothing until like the 90s with Columbine, and that's really when it started becoming an issue. And
Yeah.
I think that mental health is really a big part of it, because all of these shooters, you look at them and there's some common denominators. They're really quiet, they're kind of loners, they keep to themselves. If they're kids, they were bullied, or, girls didn't like them, they couldn't get a date. They had warning signs beforehand of anger issues or just sort of weird personality quirks that if you're in the mental health world like I am, I mean, they're red flags that someone should be noticing. These aren't happy, healthy, stable people that are just suddenly saying, oh, I'm going to pick up a gun and mow down a bunch of people.
Right.
And then on top of it, you have the whole sensationalism around it of these people are almost treated like celebrities. Their picture is everywhere. Their name is everywhere. Everyone wants to read about them and know why they did it. And it's, I think for the kind of person that would do this, it's sort of glorifying or romanticizing it. So, I mean, that's two things right there. You got these people that are lonely and don't have friends and are isolated, and it's like, oh, well, if I do this, then everybody's going to know my name.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
tend to agree. And the sensationalism of it definitely is a factor because it's like compounds the way that they're feeling because they're upset, they want to get even, and then they
mhm,
realize the whole world is going to know that they got even,
exactly.
and they just go for that. And then also like I like obviously I love social media. I think a lot of the technology is great and everything, but it does
Hmm.
make people. It's sort of in social media is not bad on its own. It just intensifies things that are already there. And I
Yes.
think that if you're someone that can tend to be kind of disconnected or have trouble connecting with other people, it can intensify that because you have access to more people to not care about you, and
Right.
that
Hmm.
that I think can lend to it also. I mean, because as social media has gotten bigger, we have seen more mass shootings. I mean, correlation doesn't necessarily mean causality, but still,
Right.
it definitely I think could play a role. One thing I don't buy into is the violent video game thing that people keep bringing out every time
Oh
these
no.
happen. That seems
No,
crazy
I
to
mean,
me.
and people are saying, oh, there's psychological research to back this up. Well, yes and no, um, because there is some research that suggests that small children will mimic violence if they see violence, but it's not necessarily that they'll mimic things in video games or TV. They'll mimic violence that they see their family members and parents doing.
Right, that makes sense.
So, and I mean, okay, like a 6-year-old probably shouldn't be playing Call of Duty,
Right.
and for obvious reasons, and plus, like, I don't know, every time I play Call of Duty, it's always a 6-year-old calling me a swear word.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
but I mean, that's just kind of like, they do have trouble sometimes differentiating fantasy from reality, but it's not mostly 6-year-olds that are playing those games. It's teenagers that already know the difference.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's yeah, and a
So
part of it
I don't
is
take it to video games.
yeah, no, and some of that I think is mostly like really super conservatives that just have a problem with violent video games in general, and they just
Right.
and that's what always happens with these kind of issues is people use them to kind of piggyback whatever they have a problem with.
Mhm.
It's like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
let's blame it on all these things I don't like.
And wasn't it in the '90s? Wasn't it like metal music that they
Yep.
were blaming it on,
Oh yeah.
and
Yep.
like Marilyn Manson?
Yeah, that's what's crazy is like, I've never been like a big Marilyn Manson fan. I'm more like old school '80s metal, but I've
Mhm.
seen him interviewed and stuff. He's a brilliant guy. He's a really smart guy.
Oh yeah, he's really smart.
He's not like people don't understand. It's theater. I mean, it's art. There's like obviously there's truth in his art, but but part of it is theater. It's not like he's
Mhm.
going around telling people to kill each other. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts. There's this old thing. Someone shared it on Facebook. It was Marilyn Manson and I want to say another member in his band, and it was like
Mhm.
this old school like daytime TV show, like from the '90s or something. And I think it might have been after this happened or something. And
Yeah.
it was so funny because it was like all these soccer moms in the audience and stuff, and then they had like all these people like discussing the issue of like is this music bad or whatever, and it was so funny because the answers that he was giving and like the other guy in his band it was so obvious that they were just messing with them, like they didn't take any of it seriously, and that like they were just like
Right.
this is a waste of time. These people are never going to get it. But anyways, that's always the case. Things get blamed. Things that seem scary to people.
Right. I mean, and I don't know how true it is because I didn't see the study, and you can't really follow any of the headlines or crap that you see on Facebook, but there was
No.
some video that was posted recently that talked about how overall people that listen to like metal and punk music are considered to be more emotionally stable because it gives them an outlet for their anger,
Yeah,
and
I saw
they
that.
overall handle conflict better and anger better.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, because I listen to a lot of metal, not only metal, but the thing is that people don't understand about it, that don't listen to it or whatever. It's basically, the whole idea is talking about the negative emotions that and negative things in the world that are very real that people experience. People think that
Right.
it's them promoting it, but it's not them promoting it. It's basically them just not being afraid to talk about it, And then
Right.
there's some kind
Exactly.
of like energy that you can get from like accepting those things as truth, and you can
Hmm.
use them to kind of like build you up.
Right, and it sort of builds or fosters a sense of community too, because other people are like, oh wow, I've been through that too, I've experienced that too, and nobody's talking about it, and no one else is talking about it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And if you take it at surface value, then of course, it seems bad. It's like, oh, the evil Satan worshippers, and all this kind of stuff. So they don't believe in Satan. They're just using that as a, just something that looks cool as a mascot or an example of, to define the
Hmm.
negative. But
Right.
anyways, it's that's crazy. Um, Speaking of evil, we were talking earlier about how we both are fans of World War II and how interesting the Nazis are, which sounds bad. Interesting because they're terrible, not interesting because of
Right.
any other reason. So I feel like it's stupid, but it's like you have to, like, people look at you like, what'd you say? You're interested
Oh,
in
I
the
know. Now
Nazis.
I'm always afraid. I'm afraid, like, someday I'll be like, yeah, oh, it's really interesting. People are going to be like, oh my God, you're a Nazi.
Yeah.
Be waiting for it.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you where I do draw the line, though, is like those people, and I apologize if I offend someone listening, and it's probably just me being prejudiced, but when I go to a gun show and I see those guys set up that have nothing but Nazi memorabilia for sale, that's it. That's all they
Hmm.
got. It does make me go, I don't know. This guy might, you know, might not agree with this guy on some things.
Right.
It's just like, okay, why not have both? Like you see a lot of the guys that have military stuff at those shows. And it's like they got some Nazi stuff, they got some American stuff or British stuff or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're into,
Mm.
it's just military stuff. But it's like only the Nazi stuff. I don't know.
For some reason, it's just making me think of a King of the Hill episode where they were like selling Hitler's canoe at a tag sale.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one. That's hilarious. Hitler's canoe.
Hitler's canoe.
Have you ever seen? What do you think about like the Hitler lived after, like didn't actually die at the end of World War II theory? Like I watched a whole documentary on it, and I was very skeptical at first, but it kind of almost convinced me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was like I don't know if you ever seen any stuff about that, but it was pretty bizarre. I mean, it talked about. I mean, I can't remember every single point, but uh, basically, essentially, this was their theory. They had researched all this stuff, and their theory was that Hitler fled, didn't actually commit suicide, um,
Hmm.
and that he went to this. They had this plan apparently, like set up the whole time, and he went to this like farm in France somewhere and hid out for a couple of
Hmm.
months after like World War II had wrapped up, and then while all of the American forces were moving back to Japan, we're sending all of our ships and everything back over to Japan. That they basically snuck in with, they went through like with all of our stuff undetected in submarines down to Argentina. And supposedly Hitler lived in
I was,
Argentina until like the 1970s.
I was gonna say, weren't there here and there like people saying that they had seen him in Argentina?
Yeah, there were rumors, and another thing that was interesting, Eisenhower. So the place where he supposedly lived, because they went down there and investigated it, and there are all these Germans that live down there, and there are actually Nazis in Argentina. Like that is a fact. It's just whether Hitler was there or not, of course, is up for question. But supposedly there was a hotel. It was this really small town. Obviously, we know a very small town where he supposedly lived on this farm in Argentina, and there's a like one hotel
Hmm.
there, and Eisenhower stayed there in the '60s, and
Really?
yeah, no one knows why. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's pretty strange stuff. And they said they went down there, and there was like a lot of people who were kind of like, yeah, he was here, and stuff. So I don't know, who knows, but it's a weird.
And
That's
I mean, I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, I mean, if the government did things like MK Ultra and, were threatening to assassinate Martin Luther King
right.
and, the Tuskegee, syphilis experiment, and then this other one that just came out that they were like testing airborne chemicals in like the Chicago projects or something. Like,
Oh, I haven't heard that.
I don't know. People could potentially like sneak Hitler out and send him to Argentina. Like, it's entirely possible.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about the money and resources they had, and come on, he had to know that as big of an ego as he had, as evil as he was, he had to know that could have gone south. Trying to take over the world, So it makes sense that he would have had some kind of big elaborate plan in place or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's bizarre to think that like Hitler was just hanging out drinking coffee in the morning in the '60s. That's so weird. That's such a weird thought.
This is a weird thought.
Yeah, it's like people going and seeing John Wayne movies and going to Beatles concerts and like Hitler knew about the Beatles. Like if that's weird, you know. Like imagine that Hitler listening to the Beatles. That's the weirdest thing ever.
It would be pretty bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. And it made me think. You ever seen the movie Hellboy?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay.
Though.
I was just say when I was watching that, it kept making me think of there was a scene in that movie with that one guy. Forgot his name, but whatever. He became part of that secret organization, and the guy said something about Hitler dying in the 50s or something. He was like, "But he died after World War II," and he was like, "Oh, did he now?" I was just like, "They were trying to tell us. The media was trying to tell us this whole time Hitler was alive."
You never know.
I know. I used to be like. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, well, I mean, it's probably the craziest thing about thinking about, like, oh, okay, maybe, like, Hitler was listening to the Beatles is, all of these people, as horrible, evil dictators and tyrants they were still human beings.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of the scary part, that humans can do that, and in some cases do genuinely believe that the evil things they're doing is for whatever greater good.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and I think it's part of why people are fascinated by serial killers and stuff, because it's like, it's like on one hand they've done these like horrific, like, almost like storybook demon like things, where you like, so it's hard to even imagine them as being like a regular person. And on the other hand, they do things that are very normal that we all do. Like
right.
Wake up in the morning and eat cereal or whatever, and it's just like, it's strange, and also it's like your own mind, and you know that your own mind has certain limitations and weaknesses and things like that, and you can, and there's certain things that you can see how, like, oh, if I allowed myself to do this or that, then I could see myself getting to a very undesirable place or whatever. But it's like you see how far away like that kind of behavior is. And it's just like, wow, how did you let it get that far? How'd you get that far in your brain where you were like, yeah, this is a good idea to kill a bunch of people?
Right.
It's bizarre.
I mean, and hell, Ted Bundy was, he actually worked in a like crisis center, a mental health crisis center, and answered the phones for the suicide hotline.
Jeez. So he might have saved some lives.
He was studying to become a social worker.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
right?
that's creepy. Well, it's like
pretty creepy.
I don't know if you've seen Dave Chappelle's new specials or not, but in one of them he talks about Bill Cosby and how all the stuff that he did, and he's like, but also he apparently supplied the like the PA system for Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. Just as a way to like emphasize how it's just. Just the weird dichotomy of life. Bad people do good things and good people do bad things. I don't know.
Yep.
Strange.
Very true.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, back to the Nazis. They've always kind of like fascinated me, and to a certain extent. Well, one, because my grandfather was in World War II, but also because it's like they don't even seem real. You know what I mean? It seems like something from Star Wars. I mean, in some ways, like the Nazis are
Right.
more interesting than the Empire from Star Wars. It's like you can't even make it up almost. You know, the stuff that they
Hmm.
were into, all the weird experiments and stuff,
Right.
and all the crazy technology. Like they were experimenting with cloning. They were really into like old ancient stuff and like Egypt and all this stuff. And people even say that they were building a like a flying saucer. What's it called? The Bell something. I forgot what they called it.
Right. I can't remember it either.
Yeah, but it's
Hmm.
bizarre. And that's probably why they lost, because they were like doing all that stuff instead of focusing on the war. But it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre, and a lot of the technology that we have today is derived from them. In some way, shape, or form.
Yep. I mean, people. It did. Wasn't it Nazi Germany that came up with morphine?
It might have
I
been.
think.
Yeah, it might have been. I know that like jet engines was kind of one of their things, and
Yeah.
computers. They sort of pioneered computers in some way. But
Yeah.
it's crazy.
And I mean, as far as how people can get that far, there was this movie, and oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of it. I want to say it was called The Wave or something, but I just googled it, and that's not it. So it's gonna
Okay.
bug me. But there was some movie where basically it focused on like a class or something, and they had to kind of come up with this idea for sort of like a cult like group that had to have like passwords and handshakes and different rules and norms and things like that. And in the end of it, like the people that were in the class that were participating in this like experiment became so involved that it became very like us versus them, and they were bullying other people and beating them up, and it got violent, and it showed how people can get like sucked in to even this really crazy doctrine and feel so close and attached to it, and the how far they'll go to try to protect it. It was really crazy. It's gonna bug
Wow.
me that I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. What was that blue eye brown eye experiment that some teacher did in the
Yeah.
'70s?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like
Yeah.
we have to really watch out for our own weakness. I mean the human mind has a lot of weaknesses. But it's like you just have to you just have to watch out for it. Basically, I guess I don't know. It's
Right.
easy to get sucked into stuff like that. I like to think
Well,
that.
I think
Sorry, go ahead.
good. I was gonna say, I think a lot of it comes down to being able to, yeah, recognize our weaknesses and accept, personal responsibility for things, because, a lot of people that, well, unfortunately, liberals, they always think that, oh, well, the government's going to save me, the laws are going to save me, oh, no one's ever going to break the rules. And people like that, I mean, there's this Stanley Milligram experiment. If you're someone that believes strongly in authority, and that authority is like benevolent and does the greater good, you'll pretty much do anything that they tell you, even if it's hurting other people.
Yeah, that's scary.
And it's always people that just can't, for whatever reason, take responsibility for their own lives. It's like, oh, okay, I'm hungry, so I could either, go get government handouts, or I could go try to get a job, or, I'm worried for my life, so I could either, get my gun license, whatever, and protect myself, or I could just, rely on gun-free zones,
Right.
things like that. I think it's, personal responsibility is, a pretty deciding factor.
Yeah, it's super important, and it's something that doesn't necessarily just come naturally. It's like you have to work at it,
Right.
and that's
Mhm.
part of the problem with one of the drawbacks of our society becoming more comfortable and whatever easier, more accommodating is people want to cling to that a lot harder. I feel like
Yep.
especially the everyone always complains about the young kids, and I hate when I hear people trash talk millennials. It's like, okay, like come on, we know that making big generalizations are bad. You can just
I mean,
single out a
I'm
whole group of
technically
people.
a millennial.
Yeah, technically I am too. Yeah, But I do think that it's gotten harder on young people, though, to adopt those kind of principles of individual responsibility, because there's so many, just, I don't know, accommodations, and people are just a little bit more. People are nurtured a little bit longer, I feel like, now than they
Oh
used to
yeah.
be. But
Yeah, I have that conversation a lot. Like the teenage years and adolescence now lasts until you're like 25.
yeah, it kind of
When
does.
even back in the 50s or whatever, you were like 15, you were going to school, but you had a job and you were saving for your car and
Yeah,
getting ready to be like the man of the house.
yeah. Learn to drive. Time to go
It's
to war
very
now, son.
different.
Yeah, yeah. It's I I like to think that to a certain extent, it's like our technology is kind of creating this problem, but
Mhm.
I probably have maybe even an unrealistic faith in technology, because I feel like that it's sort of going to fix itself. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of creating this problem, but then as we get more and more technology, and we're
I
less,
think so.
yeah, and we're less reliant on things that we used to be, and resources
Mhm.
are more available, and things like that. I think it'll kind of take care of itself eventually over time.
Right. Well, I mean, look at, for example, a lot of times, public schools and colleges now, it's pretty much just, ramming liberal doctrine
Right.
down kids' throats, right? But now with like the technology, there's more and more people that are doing homeschooling and homeschooling groups. And then there's a Khan Academy. It's a non-profit K through 12, like online school that some of the best schools in the country use, and it's completely free, and that's all possible because of technology.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's people making YouTube videos like you that they can watch.
Right?
Blast through some of their
Yeah.
liberal propaganda.
I mean, and my goodness, like my entire early firearms education came from, your dad, Hickok 45, came from the guys down at Moss Pawn and Gun, like Iraq veterans
Yeah, those guys are
8888,
great.
and like FPS Russia.
Yeah. FPSRussia, you might have learned some weird things from him, but
But I mean, because especially living in Massachusetts, there's like nowhere else to get the information but
yeah,
on the internet.
yeah. Well, and we hear from people all the time that say they got into guns because of us, or they're buying their first gun.
Hmm.
They started watching us 2 years ago. Now they're about to buy their first gun and stuff like that. And I just love to hear that kind of stuff, just because it's like, we know we're making some difference in converting people into the evil ways of weapons.
Mm.
It's kind of nice. It's funny. I mentioned FPS Russia. I met him for the first time in, I think, the summer of 2012 or 2011. No, maybe
Hmm.
2011, something like that. It was right as he was first starting to get really big. Like, he had just done that
Hmm.
AA-12 video, maybe like
Yes.
a couple of weeks, before that, when I met him. So he was just like, there's a lot of buzz about him, because at the time, I think we were we had been the biggest gun channel for a while, I think, and then he just blasted onto the scene and just, destroyed everybody, views and everything.
Hmm.
And so it was kind of like, who is this guy? What's the deal with this guy? And we didn't know anything about, like, we thought, for all we knew, he was in Russia. And then
I
we,
was so disappointed when I found out he was Russian.
a lot of people were. And then we found out he was going to be at this event we were going to in Kentucky, and we were just like, oh, this should be interesting. And it was so
Hmm.
weird. Like, first time I met him, and he's just kind of like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" We're just like, "What?" It was like not the voice I expected to hear from him at all.
Yeah.
But
Well, I love that AA-12 video and the one where he like had the tank and was like going through the drive-through or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah, that was great. But he's a genuinely funny guy, and that accent, it just, it's so funny.
Mm.
Yeah, he's great. I don't understand what happened to him. It's just, I can't wrap my head
Well,
around it. Like, why did he walk away from such a huge audience
well,
like that?
from what I understand, something like wasn't one of the producers or something found dead, and then I think like he was raided by the
Yeah.
ATF or something like that. It got really crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not a lot of details out there, but from what I understand, there was some really crazy stuff going on.
There definitely was. You know, it got crazy for a while, but you know, the thing is, like I've run to him a few times after that, and he always said he was planning on coming back. You know,
Oh, really?
yeah. Last time I talked to him was about a year and a half ago, and he said
Hmm.
he was like had his explosives license and all this stuff, and he was about to start making videos again, but you know, nothing. So I don't. Yeah, I know that definitely was why he had to take a break for a while, but I don't understand why he
Yeah.
hasn't come back. There must be, yeah, there's something else that you know is definitely not public that I don't know about going on with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad because
Well, and
he's a good guy.
it's not like YouTube is the most gun-friendly place anymore either.
Oh man, yeah, I know. We've been having to deal with all the major gun channels, or even the smaller ones, have been having to deal with getting like channel strikes, and we actually just got our first one not long ago. We got it removed, thankfully. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's just you know, and it's always on something arbitrary. Like there was another YouTuber, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Such 00, does a lot of like survival stuff.
No.
But he had two strikes, and he was looking down the barrel of a third one, and then luckily he got one of them removed, and then he got like another one later or something. You know, it was scary, you know, for him
Wow.
for a while, because you know you get three, you know, that just take your channel down. You may not get it back. So
Well, I mean, there was a guy that I know that was local. His channel was really, really small. It was Billingsgate Ballistics, and he was doing like reloads, and he was doing different videos, and his channel got completely nuked. And he said that he didn't even. I think he said that he didn't even have any community strikes.
weird.
So I don't even know how that can happen, but I'm like, oh God, I was so afraid of it. So I was like uploading to VidMe for a while too, but
Yeah.
then VidMe went down, and I mean, I'm at the point now, anytime I put up a video, it's auto demonetized, and I have to wait for it to hit, 1,000
Oh yeah.
to, appeal it. And it's like, okay, if it doesn't have ads, that's no big deal. But if it doesn't have ads, YouTube isn't making money off it, so they're not going to promote it or let it get as high up in the algorithm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of like a soft censorship.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it really is. You know, and what's so frustrating, this whole thing got started. I mean, not that it was super friendly before, but what really got started all this problem was that Wall Street Journal article,
Yep,
and
yep,
you know, and it was basically about them trying to screw over YouTube. And the thing is, everyone understands pretty much that the ads on the videos really have nothing to do with the actual content, other than they might be somewhat
right,
targeted. But I mean, like you know that company is not working with the person who's making that video. You know, it's a
right.
totally separate thing. But they sort of create that connection, with those whatever there's like some racist video or something, so it got all
It was
the advertisers freaked out.
it was these supposed terrorist recruitment videos, and when PewDiePie made the Nazi joke or something,
Oh
and there
yeah,
were ads on the video,
yeah,
something like that. I don't know.
yeah.
I
I think
mean, it's
so.
stupid.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, and you wish that it's a weird dichotomy because on one hand it's like yeah, I'm a free market guy, of course, and it's a private business, they do what they
Right.
want. But it does get into this other weird territory where they sort of have a monopoly, and social
They
media is a
do.
very monopoly oriented kind of thing. You saw what happened with
Mhm.
MySpace. So
Right.
YouTube is the place to be. If you want to get noticed on the internet making videos, I mean, you got to be on YouTube.
Right.
So
I mean, it is a tough call because okay, yeah, there is the free market argument, and they are a business, so it's their right to pretty much do whatever they want. But the problem is, like, they're not transparent about it, and
yeah,
they don't. It's like different rules apply to different people. So it's like, okay, if you're going to say this is your policy and it's your policy across the board, then actually do it that way. When you tell when you make an announcement that you're going to send everyone an email before you demonetize their video. Like, actually do it. Actually tell them why. Actually, follow through on appeals. Actually, apply it across everyone, even if they're feminists or social justice warriors or whatever.
Right.
And don't just target, more conservative-leaning channels.
Yeah, at least just leave us alone. I mean, it's bad enough that how often do you see a video on trending that has anything conservative? Basically never.
It's usually just like people eating like hot wings and stupid music videos.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know what algorithm they use for that or whatever, but it's amazing that a conservative and libertarian movements and ideas have as much power and traction as they do with the left almost exclusively controlling all media.
Right. Well, honestly, I think it was Ron Paul's run, his presidential run, that really got a lot of people. It got the ideas out there for a lot of people, and if it weren't for that, there would probably be a lot of people that didn't really know what libertarianism was, or more like constitutional conservatives or anything. Because after that, the only example that was sort of in the mainstream was Gary Johnson, and he messed that up.
Yep.
Obviously.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, like Rand Paul to me is kind of like the libertarian Luke Skywalker. He's like our last hope. You're our only hope.
Well, I'm not going to say how I know or how I've heard of it, but I have it on good authority that he really is secretly a libertarian and is just kind of playing the, conservative role.
Yeah, definitely. And he's, like pretty vocal about some libertarian stuff, like being against the drug war, and he's very, very pro-gun and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's kind of like, he's the more tactical Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again though, both sides hate him, for some reason. I mean, it's crazy.
I know how that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough being like in the middle, because there's always something that makes people on either side really mad.
Yeah. So I do definitely get along way better with conservatives than I do with liberals. I think there's a lot more common ground.
Yeah. I'm probably similar. It kind of depends. For me, like I like really hardcore conservatives and really hardcore liberals are almost kind of like, I don't get along with. In some ways, I could almost deal with hardcore liberals more than like really hardcore conservatives sometimes. Because I feel like, I don't know. They're both super judgmental. I don't know. I can't pick. I can't. Don't make me choose on that. But that's what you get on those. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
I was going to say, I definitely though, but I don't know. I'm in Massachusetts, so everyone around me is liberal, so I'm not really exposed to a lot of hardcore conservatives. But I definitely, most of the friends that I lost when I was like, I'm a libertarian, I want to own guns, were liberals.
Yeah, I can believe it.
People that I knew for years, family members, were like blocking me on Facebook and not talking to me. And
wow.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah.
Jeez. And that's one thing that has really bothered me here lately about the gun issue and the way that the left is attacking it and everything. Is I was talking with Dad about this the other day. Is the problem is they don't see it as a political issue in the sense of like, I have a different political belief than you. Like some of them, I'm not speaking for all of them, of course, not to make a generalization, but there are a lot of them on the left that if you're defending guns, or especially what they call assault rifles, then it's almost like you're defending rape or something. You're like, I really think that there's good reason for people to rape. That's what it sounds like to them. It's like you're defending murder. You're defending something that everyone knows is bad. You just like it or something. You know what I mean? They don't even respect that you have a different point of view on it or a different side, you know.
The video that I'm working on, I was going to film it yesterday, but I was sick, so it'll have to be later this weekend. The video I'm working on is actually right now like a sort of a satire on that, and I'm having trouble coming up with a title, but it's going to be like, lessons that anti-gunners taught me about being a gun owner or something, and it's like, seeing this AR-15 just makes me want to go and like kill a baby,
yeah,
like that.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
it's probably gonna get flagged.
Yeah, well, not killing a baby is a good idea. I mean, that video idea is a good idea. Someone will take a soundbite. That's the thing out in the media when you're like, it doesn't matter how many people are listening. It's just like, I'm always just paranoid that I'm going to say something and someone's going to cut it out and be like, "Did you hear what John Hickok said? He supports killing babies."
Yep. Oh man, it's terrible.
Yep.
It's terrible.
It's a mess. One thing though, I feel like that's almost helped is people are always getting in trouble for something that they said that someone's taking out of context. It's happening so much to the point where it almost like isn't a big deal anymore. Well, look, or like in more extreme cases, look at what happened with Logan Paul. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's done." I've been around long enough. I knew, no, he's not. He's going to get bigger, and that's exactly what happened. And he did it the right way.
Like an extra million subscribers or something
because
of all that.
Yeah, totally. And he did it the right way. He stopped making videos for a little while. He laid low, so that there wasn't like a position that people could go to and give him and stir up all this heat. You keep this heat going, So it's kind of like you dampen the fire out. You stop making videos, and then once he resurfaces, he made a video about suicide or whatever. I mean, it was just super hacky and cheesy and fake and stuff. But still, it was this right way to go. And then people gave him a hard time about that. But then a lot of people were like, "Oh, whatever, I forgive him." And then then he just started being himself again. I mean, that's kind of the way you do it. And honestly, I don't think he did it on purpose, but he almost could have. You know what I mean? Like he almost could have just been like, "I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this, but it'll build me up."
Yeah, I don't know. I had never watched any of his videos before that one, and I was watching it, and I was kind of like, "Man, this guy's dumb as rocks. He probably just thought it was going to get him views."
Yeah, and that's probably the case. Of course, he makes enough money. He may have some like top-notch marketing. I'm sure he does have like top-notch marketing professionals working for him and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my God, it's just like when you watch it, like, because I hadn't really seen news. I had heard about him. The only thing I had seen out of him was some of his sketches on Facebook that like just someone I was friends with shared or something. And when I heard about all that, I went and watched a couple of his recent videos, and it was just like, it could have been a parody. It could have been someone making fun of him. It just was so ridiculous.
Like, I feel like for a lot of those videos, all you need to do is do something really ridiculous and then like yell a lot. Like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
There you go. Hit video. Trending.
Yep. Exactly. And I was talking to Dad about this the other day, too. Like, basically at the highest levels of YouTube, with some exceptions, but like the really high levels, when you're getting up into the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000, 10 million, 10 million subscribers. We get into that range. Basically, what you're doing, whatever your content is based on, you're selling energy. You're basically just selling people energy. They want to watch your videos and just feel energized and move on with their day. So that's why all those guys act like that, because they figured out that works, and it's like, I don't know.
Maybe I need to start yelling.
Yeah. Yeah, you got somebody really angry, very controversial, make people, say, like that, was that Tommy Lauren girl or whatever.
Yeah.
I just like, I don't care about that. For me, I still view YouTube as an art form. It's kind of like whether one person watches it or millions of people watch it, it's like I'm putting out something that I believe in, and I want it to be that way, not just driven by getting attention. I mean, you think about marketing like the way you title something and those kinds of things, of course, but I don't know. I just don't have an interest in selling my soul for views, I guess. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I've actually even had twice now, like two networks contact me and be like, "Hey, do you want to get on board?" And it's like, I'm like, I'm so much of a perfectionist. I would never trust anyone to touch any of my videos or any of my stuff ever.
Yeah, I would stay away from those.
Them down.
Yeah, I haven't heard great stories. Some people say that the network will help you, but it's kind of like, they're. I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing. But some people have said they liked them, but I've heard bad stories too. So I think it's better just stay on your own, stay independent. And then when you get to the point where you can, try to get sponsors and and just make sure that they're people that that you like and that you want to work with and all that kind of stuff. People will, just like anything, they'll accuse you of being a sellout and all that kind of stuff. But it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like you just got to do what you believe in and just ignore what people are saying, because it doesn't matter. It's like I tell people this all the time. If they give me a hard time about my video or something like that, I'll just be like, I didn't make this for you.
Right.
Like this, you're the one that's the idiot for watching it. It's obviously not for you. Watch something else.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you? I'm not gonna go to a pop country concert and complain like, oh, this sucks. It's just about Ford trucks. It's, I'm just not gonna go.
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
It's like, oh, well, then just go to a different video, go somewhere else, like whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes it annoys me just because, like, I'm terrible, man. Like, I'm at the point where, like, an 8-minute video is taking me 2 whole days to edit. It's bad.
Yeah.
So sometimes when someone's like, oh, well, you should have done this or you should have done that, I'm like, you know what, you need to shut up because I just spent 20 hours doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I know. Those people have no idea, how much work goes into it. Yeah, it's
pretty terrible.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you for that.
I've actually decided that, because I used to try to like upload on Saturdays or Sundays, but I think I'm gonna do like Monday or Tuesday. And I was trying to do 2 or 3 videos a week, but like I wasn't sleeping. I didn't have a Saturday. It's basically like giving yourself like a full-time job.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of work, But I will admit that one of the things that drives it is just like all social media, it's addictive, So it's like, that's one of the things that, at least for me, and I think a lot of people, it motivates you to work hard and put your content out there, is because it's like you're excited to see the response. What's the response going to be to this?
It's like a video game. It's like, oh, let me see how many views I can get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, and it's a weird, it's a strange balancing act. It's fun, and what's weird, like from my perspective, I wasn't even aware that it was like a thing you could do for a living. When we got started, it was strictly just like, hey, Dad, let's do these videos. It'd be kind of fun, see what happens. And then it's like,
well, I mean, you guys have been around. I mean, when did you start the channel?
We started making video. We started like actually making videos, and I think. Like the winter of 2008, something like that.
Wow.
So we've been at it for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. And I've been full time for like 6 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Cool.
We didn't expect it to do what it did. You always tell me, it's like, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve this life, but I'll take it. I will accept it.
I mean, it is pretty amazing what can happen with those. Because I mean, when I started making videos, like I already had a Facebook page and I was doing a blog instead, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh, well, you should do videos because, I don't feel like reading anymore." I hear like people say that to me. So I was like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to think of anything to say for a video." And I mean, God, when I got my first like 1,000 followers, I was like, oh my God, how is this happening? How are people like listening to me? And now here I am on a podcast with you.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
This is a low point in your career. Well, one thing that's kind of cool is, I'm sure you had the same experience when you get going. You sort of, there is an uncertainty, of course, at the beginning, but your audience sort of kind of helps shape your content in the way that you want it to. Because you
Yeah,
get so many suggestions and things. And then there's
definitely.
certain ones that you see, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds like me. That's like something I would do.
Well, I mean, even as an example, I got a message yesterday of somebody wanting to do sort of like an affiliate program sponsorship thing, and I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. And so like I went on Patreon and I was like, hey guys, what do you think? And everybody like weighed in, and I'll do that with video topics sometimes too. And I'm like, there's been videos where I'm like, ah man, I feel like maybe I shouldn't post this, and they're like, no, go for it. And
Yeah,
it's really great to have that community.
yeah, yeah. It really is, and the people, the encouragement or the support or whatever that you get, from doing it, because it
Hmm.
really is. That's one of the things that's cool about this type of social media like YouTube is it's so different from a TV show or something where whatever you go on TV and you might, if it's a huge show, I mean, you'll get feedback from just like running into people at Walmart or whatever. But for the most part, it's like there's not that connection with the audience. But being able to have that on YouTube, almost no matter what size audience you have that immediate connection with them.
Hmm.
It's really cool. I love it.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, what time? Let's see. What time is it? How long have we been talking? Because I don't want to run you over time. Well, yeah, it's been about an hour or so. So I know you got stuff to do, videos to make, opinions to
Oh.
project. So
Yeah, my to-do list is a mile long this weekend.
there's people out there that need convincing.
Yeah,
That's where you come
and it
in.
is nice. Like there have been a few people here and there that are like, "Wow, I never thought of things this way before." Or like, "Wow, you made me feel like maybe guns are okay, even if I don't own one." And that's like the best part when people say like, "Oh, you've introduced me to this idea, or you've changed my mind," or
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, one thing
for
with
me it is about. Go ahead.
sorry, let me
I was
keep
gonna
track of
say
how many
like for
times
me
we've done this.
for me it's about like educating people really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I was gonna say, what's cool about your channel too is it's not only guns. It's just like a part of what you do. So people may come into your
Yeah.
videos for whatever other different video that you're doing, and they stumble on your stuff about guns, and they're like, "Oh, she's pro gun. I don't know," and then they kind of watch some more of them, and they're like, oh, "Okay, I kind of get it."
It's a sneak attack.
Right. Evil plan. That's
Dun dun
cool.
dun.
Where can people obviously the Liberty Doll, your YouTube channel, what other social media do you have and stuff?
Well, so I'm also on Facebook, which I think is also the Liberty Doll. Twitter is the Liberty Doll because there's some horrible person out there that's taking claim Liberty Doll on everything.
Uh,
So I have to put the on everything.
oh yeah.
Um, I have a website that I keep forgetting to update, which is thelibertydoll.com. I've got the YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm also on Minds and Gab, though I don't know how to really operate them properly. And I have a Steam account that I've used like once.
Nice. I like the hard sell on the website. That was good.
I totally forgot about it, and someone emailed me the other day, and they're like, how come you don't have any of your new videos on your website? Like, is it still yours? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That's funny. You got to get on Instagram. Instagram's where it's at.
So I've had people that have keep telling me that, and I went to start an account, but apparently I signed up for it years and years ago and forgot about it. So I have like all these followers on there, and it's people I don't really necessarily want, and I don't know how to like delete it and start a new one.
Yeah, you might as well just
I'm trying
start
to
a new
figure
one.
it out.
I'll just start a new one. I mean, I've really gotten into Instagram lately. I still do Facebook and stuff, but the cool thing about Instagram is it's a lot more content oriented than Facebook. I mean, obviously anything
Yeah.
you post is content technically, but it's like Facebook is. I don't know. It's kind of a mess. There's a lot of noise, I feel like, on there, where Instagram is less of that because it's just about photos or quick little videos and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's just a good way to kind of like update people on what you're doing, or pictures of guns or whatever. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. What'll
But
be the next project?
there you go. Well, I appreciate you for coming on the show. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It was great.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll definitely do it again.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We'll see you guys later.